Automatically, many people think the Nazis saw women as lesser. That is not true. According to the Nazis, women were essentially in charge of keeping the race pure. Now, you're probably aware of how much Nazis care about race, and women arguably are in control of who they decide to have children with. Now, that plays an element with what the Nazis taught children, but what did the Nazis do about the actual women in Germany? See, German women at this time in the early 1930s actually had arguably a lot more rights than most women in Europe generally. For example, they had the right to vote, and to be honest, they had mostly equal pay. But the Nazis noticed something. They noticed that the birth rate in Germany, the amount of children being born year on year, was actually declining, as in there were less children being born. And as we saw with Nazi children, the Nazis feel that having more Germans supports their idea of more soldiers, more, should we say, living space, Lebensraum. So the Nazis went on a message to change the role of women inside of Germany to one that supports this. This began with the 3 Ks, Kinder, Kirche, Kirche, or church, kitchen, children, to essentially prioritise what women should be prioritising on. They were kind of forced out of their jobs in, well, a lot of different sectors, and even banned from jury duty for not having the mental capability to understand the law of the country. This kind of culminates in encouraging the birth of children and encouraging marriage. There are a number of different ways that the Nazis go about trying to do this, but some of the key ones that really stick out in people's minds are the ways that they encourage marriage. For example, offering loans to people to encourage people to get married more often, which did increase the amount of marriages. On top of that, I believe for every child that they had during that marriage, they'd get money back to encourage the amount of children being born. I know contraception was banned in Germany during this time, and I even know for sure that, should we say, abortions were definitely banned during this time. The amount of children in Germany being born was basically being encouraged to increase, and it did actually increase. See, this whole policy is called Lebensborn. It's trying to basically make women support the Nazis. And to be honest, there wasn't really many women who did not support the Nazis. This is a group of people who already not were indoctrinated, but were already slightly repressed by society. And to add the government on top of that kind of just made the whole thing seem like a bit of a, well, going against was something that's quite rare. But these policies arguably are not perfectly a success. For example, even though the rate of marriages increased, the rate of divorce also increased as well, because people would routinely get a loan every time they got married, so they'd rinse and repeat this system. On top of that, the amount of, well, children being born did increase, but it never actually increased past a level that Germany had seen before. This wasn't the largest amount of people ever being born. There were more children being born in Germany in the 1920s than there ever was during the time the Nazis were in control of Germany. You could argue that women accepted Nazi ideas and followed them, but that still does not mean that women were a successful area for the Nazis. There are good parts and bad in all of these different groups of people. In fact, some German women were determined that they were not allowed to have children. I believe the Law for the Prevention of Diseased Offspring is the name, but it prevented women with histories of mental illness, physical disability, as well as even alcoholism from having the right to have children. They were forcibly sterilised by the Nazis to prevent what they called impurity of the race. These policies are quite horrible and they're quite easy to remember, but they really exemplify what the Nazis wanted out of women. And you can just demonstrate it with this picture on the left hand side. You can see the symbolism of what the Nazis saw women as, central to their plans but also secondary. Now, to answer these questions means you revise this section. So, number 1, why were women seen as important by the Nazis? 2, what was the place of women according to Hitler? 3, how did the Nazis encourage marriages? 4, how did the Nazis encourage an increase in birth rate? And 5, were these policies a success? If you know the answers to those, you know the answers to all of this. Pages looking for 64 and 65. I wish you good luck and see you later.